Teamwork, why it's more than working together. Again, my name is Al Mann. I'm the now Vice President of Operations. I serve as the Director of Operations for Reynolds Jet Management over at Lunken Aircraft Management, Part 135 charter company. We are, again, very pleased that you are here with us, and hopefully you got something out of making toast. Again, that will be important later on here in the next half an hour or so. I'm going to run through a couple of things, and we're going to break for lunch at 12. And again, I've been touting the lunch. The lunch last year was great. It's the same menu this year, so if you were here last year, grab your favorite. I think there's some kind of brie and apple sandwich or something I'm looking forward to. So why should we have successful teams? I'm going to go through some definitions, some people traits, some team traits, talk about a thing called social justice, look at some research that has been done with respect to teams, and finish up with my definition of the ultimate team. If you search for leadership on Google, it's the Google thing again, the ultimate resource for us all. It results in 456 million hits. But I'm not so worried about leadership because not all of us here are leaders. I think, however, most of us in this room serve in some capacity, some leadership capacity, whether you're Director of Operations, Chief Pilot. If you're a PIC, you have some leadership within a team. If you're a manager, line manager. So many of us here are leaders. However, not all of us are leaders. In fact, not all of us are cut out to be leaders. But all of us work at some point during the day and every day as part of a team. So teamwork. Let's Google teamwork. And I was really surprised you only get 61 million. That's less than 1/7 of the hits for leadership. Now, if we're not all leaders, and we're not all cut out to be leaders, but we're all team members, why 7 times the amount of hits for leadership? Now, again, I will go out on a little bit of a limb and say I think leadership has been over-touted recently. There's been so many books on leadership, about leadership, but not everybody is a leader. Not everybody is cut out to be a leader, but we are all team members. Teamship was a phrase that, as we were putting this CBAS together this year, I thought it was just a made-up word. But if you Google teamship, it gets, 80,000 results. I was really surprised by something I thought was a made-up word. A great quote from Steve Jobs. Great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. And I think you can substitute the word business here for any number of things. Great things are never done in aviation, shoemaking, whatever. It's always by a team of people. This is a picture I took a couple of months back of the Kalita bus terminal in Kampala, Uganda. I took it for 2 reasons. That's manic right there. Can you imagine trying to get a bus to go anywhere in the middle of this? And this is one of the main bus stations in Kampala. It illustrates 2 things, or it helps me illustrate 2 things. One is the complete madness that is the public transport system in Uganda. And 2, I can talk about how that actually works. This actually works, believe it or not. So these 14 passenger vans are called matatus, and they are driven anywhere the guys want them to go. Whether that's the road or the sidewalk, they will drive where they need to go. They have a guy hanging out the passenger seat, the front passenger seat, hanging out the window, and as they go along, the guy's called a tout, and as they go along, if Chrissy and I were walking down the street, you'd hear beep, 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 horn, 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 and then the tout would lean out the window, hey, where are you going? Where you go our way? And so it's very, very competitive, as if you couldn't tell. So you would think that these guys that are very competitive would not work together. But they do. For example, how does this guy get out of there? He's stuck way in the middle. How does he get his matatu out of the Goleta bus station to go anywhere in Uganda? Well, the simple answer is that they do work together. They work together with the drivers around them. Yeah, there's a lot of finger pointing, arm waving, shouting, all this nonsense, but it happens, and they get these matatus in and out of every bus station all day long. So what is teamwork and what makes a good team? Let's start with a definition. The work done by several associates, with each doing a part, but all subordinating personal prominence to the efficiency of the whole. That's from Merriam-Webster. Oxford Dictionary says the combined action of a group of people, especially when effective and efficient. Not to be outdone by Oxford, Cambridge says the combined actions of a group of people working together effectively to achieve a goal. Or, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. I'm surprised no one knew that. Let's go back to the more acceptable definition. So teamwork is where several people get together and efficiently and effectively achieve a goal. So there are several roles within a team. And by breaking it down further, we can see what those roles and how those roles make up this effective team. Let's go back. Encourager. The encourager is someone who energizes the team, energizes the work that's being done. They're positive. They support. They create a positive atmosphere. They move things along by suggestions, by clarifying things. They say things like, we can do this. Oh, this is a great idea. The compromiser. Well, he maintains social harmony within the group. They are social by nature, and they are interested in others, and they introduce other people to one another. And they like to make them feel comfortable. They are willing to change their minds and their views in order to help gel that team. They work well with different people. They develop rapport with other people. They'll say, well, we haven't heard from Mike yet. I'd like to hear what he thinks about this. I'm not sure I agree. What reasons do we have for saying that? Of course, there's the leader. The leader is direct. They're good at keeping people on focus. They're good at controlling the events, controlling people. They have energy, drive, determination, vision. They give shape to a team effort. They recognize skills within that team work. They can sometimes steamroller other people within the team. They're outgoing people. They sometimes overreact. They may say, let's come back to this later if we have time. We need to move on to the next step. Sue, what do you think about this idea? The summarizer and clarifier. They're calm, reflective people. They clarify what's going on in the group. They confirm what is being said. They may say, so here's what we've decided so far. I think you're right, but we could, etc., etc. There's the ideas person. He suggests new things, obviously. Well, let's try this. Let's try that. They say, well, why don't we consider doing it this way? The evaluator. Obviously. He doesn't like to come to a disagreement quickly. He'll sit back, look at the bigger picture, evaluate, sit, a little bit of a quieter person. They like other possibilities. Let's look at this another way. I'm not sure we're on the right track. The recorder. We have a recorder. Anybody kind of clicking with some of these? Brian is our recorder, I think, in our meetings at Reynolds Jet. He's typically one of the first people that volunteer to take notes. They like to make sure that everyone is helping with the project. They act as a timekeeper. I'm obviously not a recorder. They act as the memory of the group, if you like. Do we all understand this chart? Are we all in agreement with this? Is the kind of things that they say. Aesop said, after all is said and done, more is said and done. And how many times have you been in a group session, a meeting, where after an hour or 8, all you want to do is just thump your head on the desk in front of you? That's a result of this kind of thing going on. So what about the destructive roles within a team? Well, there are about 8 or so. The autocrat tries to dominate and consistently interrupts the members of the team. There's the show-off. He talks all the time. They know all the answers, right? The butterfly will flip from this idea to that idea before topics or individual items are solidified. The aggressor doesn't show any respect to anybody and basically is full on, and it's all negative. The avoider refuses to focus on the task or on the group relationships or problems. There's the critic. Always sees the negative side to any argument, but never suggests alternatives, and he puts down the ideas of others. The help seeker, always looking for sympathy from others within the team towards self. The self-confessor uses the group as a forum for inappropriate talk about themselves again. There's the class clown, shows no involvement in groups and engages in distracting communication. And that's different from being the encourager who uses humor to motivate and energize the group. I showed this last year. This is going to be a recurring theme. If I come back next year, my boss allows me to speak again next year. You will see this again next year. I actually used this at an MBA talk a couple of years ago, and I was searching for something crazy like rubber boots or something, and this came up. I thought it was too good to not use. So we've looked at roles within a team, we've looked at destructive behaviors. So what are the things that make an ineffective team? Being a little negative here. Well, people talk more than they listen. Some members don't talk at all, they're silent. They don't contribute to the work of the team. Ideas are dismissed out of hand. There are arguments between team members. Not disagreements, but arguments between team members. 1 or 2 of the team members dominate rather than it being a true team multi-person effort. Disagreements are put to the vote. That's when it's just not talked about. Well, let's vote on that. Do you want to do this? Yes or no? Okay, hands up. Okay, and it's pushed off to the side. It's not fully involved within the discussion. Some members are unhappy with the decision. That's slightly different from, well, I disagree with that, but you know what? I'm part of this team. It's for the common good. I may have been off here, but I'm going to embrace that. So this is, at the end, when it's all said and done, people are still, they just don't get it still, for whatever reason, and they're unhappy with it, whether they haven't had a chance to contribute and be part of that decision. And little effort is made to keep to the point or work to deadlines. Just rambles on a little bit. Lack of clarity regarding goals. I think this is a key one in many team situations and group situations. The people just don't know what their parameters are and what the end goal is. Roles are not delegated. That makes it difficult to achieve a goal, especially if it's all put on one of the doers in the team. Then it becomes less effective if you don't include other people within the work of the group. There's a lack of trust and helpfulness. Again, another key for me issue is a lack of trust. We'll talk about that later. And members don't talk about how the group is working or not working. So here's another thing I'm not going to talk about. I'll just put it up there and let you look at that. Again, several inputs into this team. It's very dynamic. It has a range of individuals who contribute different ways to complement one another. It's not just a team of planners. If you have a team of planners, then guess what? What happens? You plan. What doesn't happen? Things don't get done. A lot is said rather than done. A good team will result in an effort that is much larger, you've heard this before, much larger than the sum of its parts, right? There's a lot of discussion. Everybody participates. Members feel free in a team, a highly effective team, to criticize other people within a team. Mike shared the Thunderbirds video, and I don't know, we were discussing this in the office the other day, whether it's the Thunderbirds or it's the Blue Angels. I certainly participated in this in the Air Force. It was called CAG, a Character Assassination Group, where you sat down after an exercise and you got into everybody else. Norb, I don't know what you were thinking, but my goodness, what you did there was awful. You were 3 feet away from my wingtip instead of 6 inches, all that kind of stuff, and you let this guy have it. But you know what? So what? You're sorry. But that comes around. You better be prepared to get it back. But it's done in a very constructive and positive way. And I think the answer in that Thunderbirds or Blue Angels thing is you sit there, you take it and go, thank you, boss, I'm just glad to be here. And you move on to the next person. Groups learn from the experience of everybody within the team. And the experience can include successes and failures. David Logan is a professor of management at USC. He describes the various life stages of tribes or groups. And he has 5 of them. The first stage is life sucks. Stage 1, life sucks. I'll explain these in a second. 2% of us generally as a population are in this category. Life sucks. Stage 2 is my life sucks. 25% of us live in this tribe. Stage 3 is I'm great and you're not. Most of us will be in that category. Nearly 45% of the general population are in stage 3. I'm great, you're not. Stage 4 turns a little bit. We're great. 22%. And the ultimate stage, stage 5, is life is great. Now, if we break down these tribes a little further, we're going to gain more insight into people's thought processes. In stage 1, people see the world, how they see the world is how they behave. 2% in stage 1, life sucks. This results in some horrible things. Mass murders, school shootings, those kind of things. Stage 1 is the culture of prisons and gangs. Stage 2 makes people dumb. They see their life fully dictated by their environment and culture, and they don't see any way of getting out of that. They just revert to dumbness. They're swallowed up by the environment and see no alternative, no way to get out. Gosh, you guys are a tough crowd. I'm really dreading my last example now. Okay, so stage 3 is where the vast majority, 45% of the general population, resides. I'm great and you're not. What does that mean? What does that say? That means we've been taught, for the most part, we grow up with this competition within us. I'm great and you're not, therefore I'm going to get ahead. And I'm going to get ahead at your expense and at your expense. And I really don't care necessarily what that does to you because it's all about me. I'm great and I'm going to climb that ladder. It's prevalent in business, obviously. It's, again, take business, substitute any other word. Aviation, I think. There's a lot of that in aviation. I'm great and you're not. We're constantly trying to come out on top. Now, if you can relate to this tribe, that's okay. Again, 45% of us are in there because it's partly cultural. We've been told time and time again since we've been this big to where we are now with gray hair, that is acceptable. The most difficult transition, according to David Logan, is going from stage 3 to stage 4, which is I'm great and you're not, to we're great. Stage 4 happens when people come together and find something that unites them. That's why they come together. something that is greater than the individual's competence alone. At that point, the group gels. They have shared values, okay? Something that they come together around. They have shared values. As an example of this, I want to show you, it's a very shaky video, and I apologize for that. I ripped it off of YouTube. It was filmed at the Sasquatch Music Festival in 2009. Some of you may have seen this already. I don't pretend to have found this on my own. I'm stealing this from other resources. Everything here is, I will be glad to show you these resources and where I got all this stuff. So the Sasquatch Music Festival 2009, I have no idea where it is. It looks very hilly, obviously. There's no sound on this, so I apologize again for the shakiness of the camera footage. So here's your leader, off, doing his own radical thing. I'm great. You're not. Not much happening. But a second guy shows up, and he's immediately embraced by the leader as an equal. Now we've got two people working together, from a crazy, lone, half-naked guy dancing funky dance to two people. Now we formed a bit of a team here. And they go off and do their thing. The follower legitimizes the leader's actions. So much so that after a little while of getting down, look what happens. He picks up another follower. We got a slightly larger team. The other guy in the green shirt's still there. He just fell down the hill. Here he comes. All these guys are still looking around going, well, are they nuts? Well, maybe not. Look, this lady here is putting on her suntan lotion. That's good. Oh, wow. What happened? All of a sudden there was some kind of tipping point, and now that lone, crazy, funky dancing individual, you can't even see him. You can't even see that leader. He's part of the team. So much so, you can't even see him. Now it becomes cool. Look at that idiot over there. Now it becomes cool. Everybody wants to join in around this common goal. Even the guy that looks like he just came out of an Al Bean catalog, to the guys in the cut-off jean shorts. Even the lady here, putting on her suntan lotion, is starting to dance. In my opinion, it's only when that first follower joined that crazy leader that it became legitimate. So again, I'll go back to 480 million hits on Google for leadership versus 1/7 of about teamwork. And I go, which was really more important? Yeah, the leader is out there. Yeah, he's a freak, lone guy. But yet, what took more courage? So I'll ask you this. What took more courage? That guy off there dancing away, or the guy that actually got off of his blanket on the hillside and went and joined him? Which one takes more guts? I would argue it's the second guy, not necessarily the leader. I'm not bashing on leaders, but I think the second guy plays a much more important role. Finally, effective teams reach the dizzying heights of stage 5. Life is great. And it's here and only here that the entire group is guided by their values, guided by that common thing that united them. Now they're taking that one value and going off and making decisions and working as a team based on that shared value. So they've taken that from stage 4 and using that common value to change the world, or some grassy hillside in Canada or wherever that was. William Muir, an animal breeder at Purdue University, wanted to increase egg production by selective breeding. He set up 2 experiments. Both involved housing hens in cages or groups, and that was typical for that practice in the poultry industry. And the first method, he took the most productive hen out of the group and used that hen in the breeding process of the second generation. So selectively, he took the best producer to produce the next batch of hens. And from that batch, he took the biggest or best producer and they mated with the other hens, and off they went. And the second group, they basically took the best group, the best batch of 9 or 10 hens, and used the entire group, good and bad egg layers, to use for the breeding of the second generation. That second generation took the best group and used that, and so on. So you might think that the difference in that is small, but you would also be, in my mind, be right in thinking that taking the best egg layer, using that to produce the second generation, et cetera, would work out slightly better than just taking the good and the bad as a whole, because then you've got good and bad, right? Well, the thing is, laying eggs is not a team experiment, and this is what happened. Well, not exactly, but what happens when he took some pictures of the 6th or 7th generation of these chickens in this experiment, and of 9 or 10 typically in a group in a cage, you would have 3 left over. The other 6 or 7 had been killed by these 3, by the aggressive single best egg layers in the group, when he took that one and mated, one and mated. And they killed 70% of the flock. Why did that happen? Because I'm great and you're not. I'm great and you're not. Those chickens, those hens, created an environment through pecking order, call it what you want, but created an environment in which they killed the other chickens in the group because they were the best. I'm great and you're not doesn't work. I'm great and you're not because I can get ahead at any cost. Doesn't work. Margaret Heffernan is a serial CEO. She's been a CEO of about 5 companies. She started with the BBC, radio and television several years ago. She now blogs and writes for several online magazines, mainline like Wall Street Journal, etc. And I believe she's actually worked with Procter & Gamble. I heard a story that she works with senior management and CEO type folks on leadership and teamwork, etc. She said, companies don't have ideas, people do. Companies must invest in their people, not just the bricks. Okay, let's get real. How many people would share that thought? I would. Yeah, you have to invest in bricks for sure. And we're going through that at Reynolds Jet with our Hangar 4 transition. But she says there's a huge argument for investing in your people. One of the ways that she does this is by coming up with a thing that she calls social justice. So what is social justice? Well, it's a mindset, primarily. Teams that exhibit high levels of social justice have these things in common. They exhibit high empathy. What researchers at MIT have called the eye test. That's when you're talking with someone, there is eye contact. And a lot of it. Guys aren't as good as the ladies when it comes to this empathy thing, right? We'd just rather sit there and watch the football. Who saw the football last night? Denver, my goodness. We'd rather do that than have a conversation. The women in the room probably understand this. If you have children, mothers amaze me that they have this baby in their arms that cannot communicate, but yet that mother can understand exactly what this child is feeling just because of the facial features and things. For me, guy thing, right? So that's part of that empathy. They're able to connect with everybody. Because people that have high empathy can connect, they give equal time to everyone in the group, and that equal time allows everybody in the group to participate. So therefore, no one dominates. But there are no hangers-on. No one's around for a free ride in a highly effective team. Again, highly effective teams typically have more women in the group. And I think that goes back to the empathy thing. So, social justice. What matters between people matters more than many things. Again, a key, fundamental idea to wrap our brains around. Guys, I don't know, are we empathizing with that or not? I don't know. But what happens between people is more important than a whole lot of other things. Helpfulness is core to successful teams. It's a direct result of people getting to know one another. So, what do we have to do to create an environment of social justice? Some more quotes from Margaret. Imagine how the world looks through the eyes of others is fundamental. Customers, colleagues won't see everything as you do, and sharing others' perspectives is how we learn. Next time you attend a meeting, oh, this one's a tough one for me. Next time you attend a meeting, promise yourself you won't say a word. This may sound simple, but listening requires courage. It means you have to be open to what you hear. The more senior you are, the more important listening becomes. Once a leader speaks, most people stop listening. Stop listening to one another and start positioning themselves with the leader. But when the leader doesn't speak, then just like a great choir, people have to listen to and respond to one another. That's how and when distinctive work emerges. One aspect of the typical way we go about our business is that we are set up our organizations into what Margaret Heffernan calls a forced hierarchy. Hierarchies make it easier for a few people just to be along for the ride. They're dead weight. Again, goes against what we just said about highly effective teams. Everybody participates. There is no dead weight. In organizations that strive to reduce the pecking orders, everyone is encouraged to see themselves as leaders, capable of being able and making others successful. This is the point which an organization approaches the holy grail of teams, which I think is mutual accountability. Mutual accountability happens when people feel they can succeed among people they know, trust, and care for. Guys, empathy, right? They think, why would I let them down? In 2013, the new CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, I believe is his name, threw away all the forced rankings within the organization in order to reach this holy grail of mutual accountability. He created One Microsoft. He meets every new hire and reinforces the message that management is there to serve the workers. A quote, "We have to get people at the bottom not to take any bull. We have to be in touch with all of them. We have to get the best from everyone." One consequence of this approach is that Nadella is constantly seeking ways to excite, motivate, encourage an incredibly large workforce of highly bright, ambitious individuals. So I did a little digging, and I wanted to see how Microsoft communicated this to the workforce, how they communicated this change in strategy to its employees. It actually makes for some pretty good reading. They wanted to be nimble. In a word, and this is straight from their memo, in a world of continuous services, the time frame for product releases, customer interaction, and competitive response is dramatically shorter. As a company, we need to make the right decisions and make them more quickly, balancing all the customer and business imperatives. Each employee must be able to solve problems more quickly and with more real-time data than in the past. They needed to be communicative. In the new rapid turn world, we need to communicate in ways that don't just exchange information, but drive agility, action, ownership, and accountability. Collaborative. Collaborative doesn't just mean easy to get along with. Collaboration means the ability to coordinate effectively within and among teams to get results. Builds better products faster and drives customer and shareholder value. They wanted to be decisive. As a global company with literally billions of diverse customers in an accelerating business environment, we must have a clear strategic direction, but also empower employees closest to the customer to make decisions in service of the larger mission. This is tricky, but in a large company, very tricky. But it's the key to higher levels of productivity, growth, and customer satisfaction. And they needed to be motivated. In our industry, every day brings more challenges and more opportunities than the day before. But we have a unique chance to make the lives of billions of people better in fundamental ways. This should inspire us all. Those who love making products and services, those who love engaging with customers, and those who love planning and running our company in the most effective way possible. We want people who get up each morning excited to make Microsoft better. That's how we come closer to fulfilling the potential of all people around the globe. I think these are great words that we can all use within our own organizations to provide a platform for change. So, drawing toast. I said we'd get there. How did you do on your own? Well, I can make this technology work. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, generally what we see is a step-by-step process. Links and nodes. Let's see, Joe. There we go. All right. Links and nodes. Each one of these little sections is a link. There's another link, a link. And these are nodes. So a lot of these have a lot of things in common. And typically they will go from left to right. Or right to left. I'm going to guess this was drawn by a lefty. No one's going to claim that one? Again, links and nodes. Node, 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 link, link. Okay, here's one that adds numbers. Helps the links and nodes thing happen. Number one, you take your bread. Well, actually, number one is you take off the little thing that fastens the bread, the bag together, all the way through the toaster. Yay! Number 5, toast. Typically, you'll see 4 to 12 steps. I think there's 9 in this one. Again, links. No links. Not so many links here. There's one up top. A lot of nodes. There's another link or so down there. I like the toaster drawing. I like that. Very clean. I like clean. 6 nodes is probably the most efficient way in this process. This one has some subsets. I like the fact that here you have it tells you if you want it light, medium, or dark. You do something with this. Kind of like that. I also like the fact that we have a happy face down here. So all this results in a happy face, hopefully. Yeah, I like ding as well. I think that's awesome. Most didn't have the human element, though. This one does. Oh, no words. Scribbled out bread, I think, there. Again, the person is involved in this. The person is involved in putting the thing in the bread in the whatever this is. The person. It's a huge toaster. Look at the size of that. Time. There's a time element in this. I like that too. Although the two 11s on that. Again, you plug in your anthill and toast comes out. That's all. And of course, there's the very clear and concise. Nice toaster. Plug it into the wall. And in the end, you have a cowboy hat. Obviously, you get all sorts of responses to this. This is good. Seriously, how difficult is making toast? First time we've had a table, though. So you get how difficult is making toast. Seriously, Al? This is what I call the caveman. Bread plus fire, toast. Ugh, right? You know who you are. Then, of course, there are always the comedians. T plus O plus A plus S plus T equals toast. Okay, I'll get serious for a minute. You take this and you put it over fire. Then, of course, we have the people that's the wrong toast. I love it. But typically, how to make toast looks like this. Thank you for doing all those. So what has that got to do with anything about Teams? I don't know. What happened when you started collaborating using the sticky notes, though? Thanks, Joe. So what we saw, and I gave you an opportunity to refine your process as an individual by going from that one card that I could use and make fun of to the sticky notes. And then take those sticky notes again as individuals. You had time to refine it, but then go and then I love the dynamics in that exercise. Just looking at all the different teams, and I had Mercer over here doing this, and everybody just kind of, to this team over here, the natural leader came out there, Mike, and had his little audience back here, and had it all set up. I love it. I love it. And that's what just floats my goat, as they say. I love that kind of interaction between people because it's energizing. For me, it's energizing. It's one thing to sit there with your sticky note on your own and draw T plus O play. But when you get within that group atmosphere, it's an incredible thing. Just to give you an idea of what does happen when you draw toast in that kind, and you can go to drawtoast.org, I think is the website, and you'll see a whole bunch of examples just as good as these. The typical average node count is about 6. So and we saw that. And there are a ton of other examples, obviously, that I didn't highlight back there. 6 to 9. So anything more than that, 12, 13, gets a little frantic, busy. 1 or 2, bread, candle, not quite specific enough. And there's another cultural difference there, too. In Europe, they make toast slightly differently. There's heard of French toast, right? So if I say make toast, you might think, well, you put it in a frying pan and do it that way. Toaster ovens. That's how I grew up, was under the grill rather than a toaster. So there are cultural differences. I've seen drawings on the website where they go all the way back to taking the seed, planting the seed, harvesting the corn, and all the way through. But I think you can appreciate the fact that when you came together as a team, you could take the best sticky notes from all the individuals and make a much more refined, much more perfect, if you like, product. And they're out there. If you haven't had a look at them, they're out there. There's some great ones out there. Okay. We've heard of CRM within the aviation industry for years now, since the early 80s. We're all familiar with it. And it's been defined and redefined over, I think, 6 generations now, since the 80s. But with our respect to our discussion here as non-airline operators, who typically fly with the same handful of pilots, I want to point out a couple of statistics highlighting when things go right and things go wrong. NTSB research. 73% of incidents occurred on the first day a team worked together. That's pretty staggering. If you can get through that first day, get to the hotel at the end of the day, and the numbers are with you at that point. 44% of the accidents and incidents happened on the first flight. So, get through the first flight, get to the hotel at the end of the day, you're on a winner. Crews that worked best together or worked together for years performed far better than the rest. So there's a good argument to keep crews together and avoid turnover. Team research. General research on teams shows superior teams tended to be very stable. They worked together for a long time, getting to know one another, empathy, and trust one another. Switching people in and out didn't make the team more creative. It actually had the opposite result. It was disruptive and sometimes dangerous. Deep breath. Powerful people. In your mind, you've just defined that for yourself. So by a show of hands, how many people here work with powerful people? The vast majority of us. Okay. Right at the beginning, I said that most of us here are in leadership positions. Also, leaders are part of a team. Teamwork without effective leadership can result in death by committee. We all know what that looks like. Having said that, perhaps too much has been said about leadership versus teamwork. But I'm going to talk about leaders. Some more research. Powerful people who control resources tend not to pay much attention to the less powerful. Can I get an amen? They are less able to see the visual, cognitive, and emotional perspectives of others. And as a consequence, they make less accurate judgments and form relatively shallow understanding. More recently, brain imaging has shown that those with power are less responsive to others. Other research has shown that this same group of people are 5 times more likely to exhibit psychopathic tendencies than the general population. Now, that sounds really terrible, doesn't it? Your CEO is a psychopath. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that there are many tendencies in a true axe-murdering psychopath. One of those is a lack of empathy. You see a trail going back a few slides? So I'm not saying that your CEO is an axe murderer. I want to say that again. My boss is not an axe murderer. But they are less likely, generally, current CEOs and bosses accepted, they're less likely to show empathy towards others. So that goes back to the eye test we talked about earlier. Backing up the last point here of being less responsive to others. The paradox of power is that while we need leaders to show they care about others, in order to cultivate effective teams, often they can't. I hope I've given you some food for thought regarding teams, of which you are a member. Perhaps I've made you think that you are indeed a part of a team and not just a leader, or an individual working with other individuals. I'd like to end one final story about what I described right at the start as the ultimate team. At the end of the war in Vietnam, a U.S. Army colonel by the name of John Smith and his team were framed for robbing the Bank of Hanoi. In fact, they did rob it, but they did so on orders. When they came back, they were convicted by a military court and sent to prison. They escaped, went on the run, first pursued by a Colonel Lynch and later by a Colonel Decker. While on the run, they became heroes for hire, working as good guy vigilantes around the U.S. and the world. Colonel Smith was their leader, a master of disguise. Templeton Peck was a master of the persuasive arts and the team scrounger. Bosco Albert Baracus was their mechanic. Thank goodness for Wikipedia. But also provided the team with its muscle. And the final member of the team was H.M. Howling Mad Murdoch. He was the expert pilot. And if any of you, like me, growing up watching this show from 1983 to 1989 or whenever it came out, and loved aviation, you wanted so much to have that baseball cap and the leather flying jacket and be just like H.M. Howling Mad Murdoch. But to me, growing up, these guys defined what it is to be a team, and a highly effective one. Each member was spectacularly different from the other guys in the team. Yet each one was essential to the team's success. Each one was valued by the other members of the team. Even though B.A. was totally irritated by Murdoch's shenanigans, he would, in the end, bend over backwards to do whatever Murdoch wanted. Even fly on an airplane. If you remember, he was petrified of flying. He would even do that without being drugged, apparently. Yes, Hannibal was their leader. Every team needs a leader. It's one of the key elements within a team. But in my opinion, again, there's been more than enough said about leadership. I challenge us all to become stronger and more efficient teams. Thanks.